Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
March Parker.
And we are here to talk about episode 4 of
Castle Rock. We were so sad not to have Marcia for a discussion about the first 3 episodes.
I was sad too.
I'm sure you will inject some of your insights into this.
Well, as a matter of fact, Marcia, why don't you just real quick go through your thoughts on the first 3, unless you don't think you could separate the first 3 from 4.
I can.
Okay.
Got to keep them separated.
Because I don't know if we did a great job of relaying your message last time.
Yeah, we tried.
No, you didn't.
I'll drink to that. Yeah.
I literally read it, but okay.
I purposely, I don't watch. No, I was watching all of it. I was like, okay, what are you going to say?
I purposely watched.
She was like, these goddamn dudes.
Usually I don't, but I purposely watched that one.
I wanted to see what you guys
funny.
said. Well, because I knew we were going to meet today, and I didn't want to restate something, but I was surprised that you didn't know what I was talking about when I was referring to the ghost aspect.
Yeah, I felt kind of dumb afterwards.
But so
I didn't, because shit goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, they're all about the Skarsgard.
With this show, I mean,
they're all about the Skarsgard.
Yes.
So
he is the most compelling character for me.
Absolutely.
He's who I want to know about, him and Henry.
And you know what? I have the opposite feeling about it.
What?
Really?
I feel like I feel like he's gonna be a smoke monster. That was my second part. So
Henry is the real monster, then, I'm presuming you're thinking, right?
No, do you know what I mean by smoke monster? Have you watched Lost?
No, I've never watched Lost, but I'm assuming smoke monster is where you think that's the real evil. And
no. Smoke monster is this giant big thing that's built up, and then it ends up being a disappointing solving of the mystery.
Oh, I see. I thought it was like a bait and switch kind of thing you were referring.
It is, but a different kind of bait and switch.
Well, yeah, it's like smoking.
No. I mean, it makes you think it's going to be a huge mystery that's going to be solved, and then when they tell you what it is, it's like. It's like a hard dick just goes soft.
Yeah.
Right, Marcia?
Yeah.
That sucks when that happens, doesn't it?
It's a big disappointment. You get all riled up, and then all of a sudden, nothing happens.
They're all hot and bothered, and nothing transpires.
That was for all 35% of our female audience right there.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna real quick just say that for the first 3 episodes, I, was intrigued. I felt it was slow.
Snail slow.
The problem I have with what's happening is that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different stories, but you're not getting any sort of payoff at all. He's having a hard time keeping my attention. It sounds like your attention's too on the storylines because they are running so slow, and it makes me worried. Back to the smoke monster thing, that he's creating all of these different mysteries without any direction on how they're going to resolve and if they're actually going to be resolved.
Well, the biggest problem I had with this, and this is something that you as a woman I'm really curious about, I don't find any of the female characters really that intriguing in this show.
I hear ya. I'm
being honest.
I do understand.
Sissy's okay, but Jackie Torrance, what is going on with her? She's so one note and boring.
I was laughing at Marcia's response.
Yeah.
Oh. So,
I guess Molly's the most interesting. She has the most to do and the most connectivity, but, I mean...
Let Marcia answer.
I'm sorry?
So what I was going to say is I was surprised that they underplayed the girl from American Horror Story, and also she was in The Mist, the old lady, the blind girl. Her character seems really... minute. After her husband died, they brought it back a little bit, but
Frances Conroy, I want to say her name is. Yeah.
She's an incredible actress, and they're doing nothing with her. The mother, who is also another incredible actress of the adopted mother of Henry, I feel
Spacek,
like they have sound issues because literally had to rewind the scene with her talking about the birthday cake photo with him. We had to rewind it 3 times to understand. I still don't know what she said. I have no idea what's coming out of her mouth.
Did you put on 90%. The subtitles to try to see?
We're gonna have to because every time people are talking, I'm like, I don't know what they're saying.
I've watched the whole show with subtitles, honestly.
The music's super loud, but then when people are talking, the dialogue's really low, so I don't know what's happening with that. But I do find Molly's storyline interesting ish. I feel like there's a lot of potential there. I like the idea that she is channeling Henry, and there's a lot that she knows that they aren't revealing. Again, taking too long to spit it out. And I do have a theory that I have a couple of theories. I keep going back and forth, but I really think that she's not the one that actually killed the the priest, Henry's dad. I think she was channeling Henry and seeing through his eyes, killing the father.
Because it was when he had disappeared, and you
and
saw
he
that he
came
was all like
back.
angry about it and smashing the tapes and all that, and he's like, "I hate you, Dad." And,
So it's interesting. I don't know, because she's channeling him. So how deep does that go? Can she possess him? Can she make him do things? Or is she just watching him? Like, what's that connection? So I think that would be a really interesting twist if they did it that way. But Skarsgard, I thought that the security guard was the most interesting part of that storyline because they're just doing nothing with him. He said like 4 lines. He's quiet. They're taking too long to get to Henry.
So the one who contacted Henry, you mean? The one who basically was like, he said your name.
Yeah,
you
the guy
need to come out
from
here.
Shameless. He's
on Shameless?
He was from Shameless. He was a Nazi kid, Russian kid that was dating the gay brother for a long time. He's an incredible actor. He did great. He is doing a great job in this one, and I thought it was very interesting on how he was making that connection with Skarsgård. He was moving that storyline forward. However, nothing else is happening.
That's the problem with the
just
show in its
taking
entirety.
too long to get anywhere, and that's my fear. I hope they actually have a plan, because after the first 3 episodes, it really felt like there is no plan.
Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest problems that I feel in these huge writers' room situations, because Cecil and I both know, Mark Bernardin, Kevin Smith's homie, was involved in a very large writers' room for this show. And because of that, I feel like without that consistency, there's the tendency to meander, and so it happens very easily. Like the set precepts from the pilot are what intrigue me the most still, and everything else I'm just like, okay, they're taking their sweet ass time.
The scene where I don't even remember his name, but when the sheriff or the warden, when he got his head, when he lopped his,
the former sheriff,
no,
or the guy who killed
the warden.
Okay,
the warden, when he chopped his head off, that was awesome,
wasn't it? Yeah,
that was
the pilot.
Great scene. I thought that was really notable. When the security guard was watching the cameras and he saw the murdered security guards out, and he freaks out, and you see Skarsgård come up, and he's all like, that was really cool. I'm like, okay, there's a supernatural aspect on it. You didn't get to see him touch the skinhead that gets the cancer. You don't really know what. You were getting alluded to, like, oh, he's the devil's kid. I don't know. We'll see. I'm waiting. I'm kind of guarded.
Well, let's get into 4 then. Because
we're leading
trying to get to initially.
Just 1 through 3. So.
Yes.
Marcia's thoughts on episodes 1 through 3.
Now we're going to 4.
So 4, I thought was at least had an interesting end. I thought it was still kind of meandery. Still didn't care much about the female storyline until the end, when she heard what Henry had heard. Like the last 20 minutes were interesting and kicked things a little bit more into gear for me, but overall it was still kind of just a boring, like, here's what it is. It feels like just a boring police procedural. Not even like your typical detective out there interviewing suspects, but it's more like your Sleepy Hollow procedural, where there's a lot of looking around in dark places and finding things and answers that way. And there's so much time spent doing that every episode that, it's Henry going to a new place and looking around and finding a little piece of his puzzle, and then going back and telling that piece of the puzzle to all the usual suspects. And
because when he's exploring, there's not a lot of exposition or description or anything. It's just these silent scenes of him just looking.
which makes it easy to focus your attention elsewhere if you're trying to perhaps edit while watch something like this.
See, I guess because I like the type of shows you just were mentioning. I actually really dug this episode because I felt like we actually learned something, and it was pushing the story forward, or at least Henry's story. The whole idea of him going to that old house and remembering that he was held captive, and seeing that shack with the old cereal bowl with cereal in it. And the set design of that house was awesome. When you walked in and you just
piano
see
that
the
fell
piano
through the door,
there,
the
like, that
floor,
was
yeah, that was
badass. I felt like they could have done more with the guy that lived there, the Darzian guy,
which was actually a connection to Stand By Me, was his character and his brother. Yeah.
Well, where's my bones? I never got my bones back. But like, he got the information from, like, he had the police reports and he was connected. I never touched that boy. You know, like, it was cool. You kind of learn a little bit more, and then you find out, you know, that the dad said that Henry was the one who pushed him off the cliff. So, but then again, Molly comes back and says, but it's not your fault. Why isn't it his fault? Is it just because he's a kid, or...
It just makes me wonder how they're going to connect all these dots, because I honestly feel like maybe there was a reason Henry was being held by that guy, just like there was a reason that Skarsgard was being held.
I almost thought that
prison.
Skarsgard was the one who was... I thought they were going to make it to where... Because they talked about how the guy's wife died and the baby died. Like, what if the baby didn't die and it was actually Skarsgard and he was in the shed and being held captive?
We're throwing so many theories out
I
right
don't know.
now.
That's
What do you guys think?
Excited about this show is because it has so many possibilities, but even though I'm like, I know I'm probably going to be disappointed at the end of it, but
it's kind of inevitable.
I like mysteries and be able to be like, well, maybe they can do this and they can do that, and like, that would be fun, you know?
Yeah, the way that I described this show, though, was, and to Cecil, I was like, it's almost like a pretty good cover song of a band that you really, really love, and you love that song, and you're just like, oh, they're kind of doing their own thing. Are you okay with just the playing in the universe and stuff? And
I am, because I feel like it doesn't. Yeah, they have little nods to Stephen King here and there, but the story itself is self-sufficient. That if you weren't a fan of his novels, you could still enjoy the show. Because you don't need to know what happened at Shawshank to know what's happening in it now. Because it's a completely different Shawshank than I remember in that movie.
It's supposed to be decades later, and what happened after Needful Things with the town burned down and all this different stuff.
So I like it in that aspect, that it is its own thing and it's not trying to redo what's already been written.
Did you watch Haven at all?
Yes.
Okay, I never did, and that's one thing that people have said that
it.
they compare this to, but they think it's better than that because it's playing with the mythology.
I wouldn't compare it, but I think because Haven was definitely kind of your monster of the week.
And that was based on a book that was like this big. I mean, it was seriously, Colorado Kid was maybe 100-something pages, and it was just a little novella. So. Yeah,
it was definitely a monster of the week with an overshadowed storyline. I loved it. It was a fun... It was just a fun show. So.
Yeah, I mean,
anything
as far
else?
as anything else on this episode, I did like, actually, I thought Sissy Spacek stepped up her badass game in this episode.
Oh, when she got all attitude.
When she got all attitude, she's gutting fish, and Henry's like trying to like, you know, get information out of her. She's like, "Oh, you want to talk? Let's talk about how you're trying to ship me off to Florida or wherever the hell." Texas, yeah. And he's just like, "Oh shit!" Like,
it was the most vibrance we'd seen from her character the entire time, because in the first episode or two, they portrayed her as so just despondent and out of touch and everything, and it's just like, oh, she's actually much better off than you were assuming initially. You know, when you're like, oh, are you? You know, my mom is on the verge of dementia and Pangborn's banging her down or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not really the case. And there was another reveal in this episode where he was like, how long has it been going on for? And he assumed, since back when even my dad was still alive, that there's been a little thing between the two of them. So
well, and there was a reveal, which we can talk about. If we're going episode by episode, we might as well talk about the reveal.
Yeah.
That apparently Pangborn believes that Henry is the one that did indeed try and kill his father.
Right.
Yeah.
And because his father said as much on his deathbed, right?
Henry did it.
Sick bed.
Henry did it.
So you think Henry did it, and Henry's just surprised that people are finding out, or you think Henry? I like your opinion. I like your opinion that it was the girl that was so into Henry that she took over and like made him do it, and that's why he doesn't remember, and that's why he's so surprised when people are accusing him and stuff like that, because to his knowledge he didn't do it. But I think he's got a blank spot in his memory that he's not admitting to anyone.
He could have been possessed. I mean, like, they started the whole the series talking about how something is really wrong about the town. There's this undergoing evil, and after that night, after the boy was put in a cage, it stopped. So maybe he was touched, you know, and maybe it is connected to the guy and
the what?
guy. You know, I like the idea of thinking like that he, you know, was that kid, and you know, and he is the evil. Maybe he is the devil incarnate, but I don't know.
I think you can tell by the Henry reactions, though, that there's definitely some missing patches in his memory, whether it's repressed stuff or whatever. And I think, I'm going to agree with Cecil. I think you're on point about the fact that, because remember the scene where she was like, I see when you touch yourself, and just all that weird stuff where she was like, she was in his head as he was doing different things. And so, yeah, I'm thinking you're spot on in that she was embodying, you know, his feelings of hatred that we saw manifested in a couple different scenes, and she just acted it out and like actually bit the bullet for him.
I almost think that I think the priest was touching Henry.
I think there's definitely a darkness to the priest, which is why it was a deserved death for him.
The whole scene where he has them get into the car and they drive off into the woods. I mean,
I think they've hinted at him not being a good person, you know, and so there was a justifiability to him being killed by Molly. So
we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we will.
I'm intrigued.
We have these little morsels
like I
of
said,
information.
I'm intrigued. It's got me talking. I haven't been this excited. And it's not like I'm craving for the next episode excited, but when I watch it and I'm like coming up with all these different scenarios and what this could mean, I haven't done that in a show in a long time.
Eva's the same way as you. She loves the shit out of that show. She's like all like hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. How many episodes is it? 10, you said?
It's going to be 10, but they're also saying that this is going to be an anthology series where each season is going to be totally self-contained. There's going to be crossover characters, presumably like Pangborn, but it's going to for on different stories.
Okay.
Different people.
And all
like
in
that.
Castle Rock.
I
agree with you about it. Both of you about saying like they should have made it dairy. I don't know why.
I felt so much like it was dairy when the mascot jumped off the top of the building and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's the kind of thing that would have happened.
Well, I mean, that was in the Omen. I mean, the nun throws herself off the roof like at Damien's birthday party. She's on the top of the roof of the giant mansion, and she's like, "It's all for you, Damien," and then just fucking flings herself off.
Street pizza.
Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely an old horror trope, which is still effective.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine being like, "Hey, we're winning the game," and you just see the mascot just waving at that kid, the only person that's paying attention, and just drops. I mean, holy
He's still
cow.
doing his job.
Well, and there
still
were
pleasing the kids.
Well, and cool little Easter eggs though, because that was at the beginning of episode 2, if I remember, and it was the warden who killed himself who was doing the voiceover at that point, and he was like, it happened right after we found the dead kid on the train tracks, and the dead kid on the train tracks is the kid from Stand By Me, and so they've done a really good job of keeping the connectivity of, you know, references to Cujo, references to Needful Things, and references to other Castle Rock stories and stuff.
You know, and then the Shawshank, when she walked in, like, you can still see the bullet hole from when that warden like shot himself in the face.
Was that dog in the pilot that the warden sees supposed to be Cujo? What kind of dog was Cujo in the book?
He was a Roddy, wasn't he?
No, he was a Saint Bernard.
He was a Saint Bernard in the book? Okay,
My
then
bad.
no, it's not the same dog.
I haven't read the book.
I
remember watching a little bit of the movie when I was like 8.
It's okay. It's not one of his
whatever.
best. That's like one of the stories that King was so effed up, like at the time he doesn't even remember writing it. And there's no chapter breaks. It's all like stream of conscious, and there's like little breaks, but there's no like chapters or headings.
I just remember that dog eating people, and I was like terrified to have a dog after that. But
got over that, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Now I have a dog that
you got
probably
a big
will
ass
eat
dog. That
you.
would kill Cujo, your dog.
No kidding. Your dog wants to eat me.
Yeah. Yeah. That dog.
Anyway.
Well, any other things to say about Castle Rock season 4, episode 1?
If we're spoiling, I just have to make mention of the way the episode ended and the use of the Roy Orbison music. I thought was really prolific and crazy.
Oh,
and
we didn't even touch on the actual end.
Yeah. And that's where, honestly, I was a big fan of True Blood for quite a while, and I feel like episode 4 felt more so like the True Blood approach with like the crazy, just like score work at the beginning, where it was kind of like indie instrumental, but like building, brooding kind of thing, and then with using a popular song in the end and something really violent contrasted with it. I honestly felt like, even though I didn't love episode 4, I felt like the show is finding its footing a little bit more so with the 4th episode.
I just want to say that I find it interesting how they connected the premonition of the security guard when he first was introduced to Skarsgard, and he saw the dead bodies, and he thought like Skarsgard had killed all the people, and then he realized that it was just a premonition. It was like weird glitch of the mind, and then you could tell he was losing it a little bit more and more, and when he saw no out and he marked the cameras and like it, I was like, okay, is he gonna kill himself or what? And then immediately knew what was happening. I was like, he's going frame by frame and recreating it. So I was, we were talking earlier, like, was it Skarsgård that put it in his mind?
I still think so,
and caused him to go crazy and do it, or was Skarsgård maybe was he warning him that this was happening? Or
I think
what?
if Skarsgård is out of the cage, I think evil seeps from him and infects the things around him.
So it kind of emanates.
I don't think he did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I think it just happens when he's out of the cage.
He seems like more of a benevolent presence.
That's why he literally brought Henry a picture of the cage. He's like, the cage matters. Like that's what we were told. The cage matters. That was made in a very specific way to contain something. And now that he's out of the cage, again, I think the evil's just seeping from him.
I just kind of got the idea of The Shining a little bit, because you know how like, what's the dad in The Shining?
Jack Torrance.
Yes, Jack. When like the madness, like the ideas were given to him, kind of fed to him, and eventually it became his reality. I mean, I just talking that through just got me that feeling that maybe that's his projecting him with that imagery, and then it made him become his reality and everybody's reality.
I'm still wondering about the correlation of gaining power and the fact that one of the things the warden said was he was never supposed to see the light of day, and that obviously happened, and it was either episode 2 or 3 where he walked out and he saw the sun and got his breath of fresh air and everything. Did that empower him more so to just do more terrible stuff, or maybe not even cognizantly, like Cecil was saying? It's like he's not conscious and deliberately doing things, but evil emanates from him and infects others around him.
He's like, you don't want to touch me, you don't want to do this.
Maybe he's aware of the evil power that surrounds him, but he doesn't necessarily embrace it. It's just there.
Maybe he's an unwanting vessel, or something like that.
Yeah,
the
maybe.
scene with him and that douchebag McDouche in the cell.
Nazi or
the bureaucrat.
Yeah.
And then he starts walking towards him, and he's like,
yeah.
all right, hey now, calm down.
Yeah,
And he just grabs his door and shuts it.
He was the guy who was trying to cover up that he even was alive and stuff, him and the new warden woman and stuff.
He's trying to threaten him, and like, you're going to give us your name, we're going to figure out who you are, so we can't get in trouble. And Homeboy just stands up and he's like, oh yeah? What? You're going to make me do what now?
And he is such a huge frame of a person.
And he just
he's
closes
like 6'4".
the door and sits back down, and the dude's all like, oh shit. Like, And then he ended up getting his face shot off anyway. So I love the scene that I kind of felt a little bit of redemption of the guy going through and shooting and killing all these guards, because of you could see all the horrors happening in the background and the stuff they were doing to these prisoners. Like, yeah, they're in there. That doesn't mean you can treat them that way. And the stories he was saying. So, like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that he did that, but at the same time, he got his revenge.
And he sees Henry, and his only words are, I want to testify.
Yeah.
It's like, that ain't going to matter now,
before
bro.
He gets killed.
No one's going to listen to you.
No.
But yeah, then he gets blasted.
He was so reluctant to do the testification the whole time before.
The only thing Pete said was, but he has a new baby.
Oh, you can tell where his mind is rightfully at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He has a new unburned baby.
Yeah.
One that didn't get left in the sun too
Hey, shut up.
We have inside jokes here, guys.
Don't
All
make
right.
it sound like I burned my baby. He's got sunburn, y'all.
How you saying I burned my baby?
Gosh.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for our review of the 4th episode of Castle Rock. Thanks very much for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you're thinking of it. Did it make the series better or worse, or what are your thoughts on it? And yeah, I think that's going to do it. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime Fuego.
Thank you, Patreons. I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared.